What's up, everybody? Welcome to Using My Story. I got my guy Jesse here today. We're going to record his story about addiction and how he overcame. And real quick, can you introduce yourself and your drug of choice, please, sir?
Yeah, my name is Jesse, and my drug of choice is heroin.
Jesse and heroin. And how old were you when you first started using heroin?
I was probably like 23.
23 years old?
Yeah.
Okay. And what was it like that first time?
That first time, I actually did it with a uncle, and what had happened is I was doing meth, and I was using a needle, and I was like acting really wild, game banging and stuff, and my uncle said you need to calm down, so I said okay, and he calmed me down with the heroin, and I fell in love ever since.
So before the heroin, your DOC was meth.
Meth, yeah.
And your uncle was like, "Man, you're wilding out too much.
Yeah,
So
you're doing way
take
too
some of
much, bro.
this." He
You need
hit
to
you
chill
with
out.
the heroin.
Yup.
So your first time ever using it was through a needle.
Yes.
So what was that high like? That first heroin high? Can you describe it?
It was like it's just like I guess what I can say is it was the best thing ever at that time in my life. It went from being it just took over that moment. I felt the high. It just took over my life from there on out.
What was your favorite thing about heroin?
Just how you felt relaxed. Relaxed and everything felt good and there wasn't a trouble in the world. Yeah.
Okay. So a lot of people I have spoken to. I never did heroin,
Uh,
but a lot of people I talked to say they got sick the first time they did it.
oh, they threw up.
Yeah, stuff
Yeah,
like
I
that.
threw up. Yeah, I threw up. Um, But I think when you're high and you're throwing up, it doesn't really matter. You're just like
just feel
cool.
so good?
Yeah, you just feel good. You're like cool. I gotta throw up, and it's like whatever. You're not feeling sick. You're just throwing up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so let's go back to the meth. You were using meth. You're wilding out. Um, what other problems were you dealing with when you decided to use the heroin? What was like?
I
What was
was
all that
just,
like?
I was game banging out there, so just dealing with all that stuff, like, and I think a lot of people out there won't admit this, but, just because you're out there game banging doesn't mean it doesn't bother you. Things that you see, things that happen when you're out there on the streets, situations like, getting shot at 3 or 4 times a week will affect anybody. And I think that was the biggest thing for me, where it was just like, I was alone. I don't have parents like that. Like I had a dad who raised me, but he had my two little sisters, and it was like I don't want to be around them because they're little. They're like 12 years younger than me, and I don't want to show them that. And then I have a mom who's also doing meth, so she was out there in the streets too. She was out there in the streets too. So mom's house was like the mom's thing was like that was a hotel room to go kick back at and get away from everything and get some sleep. But at that moment when I did heroin, it was just like I had a daughter I hadn't seen in a couple years. I had no family. I had nobody to run to, but an uncle who was also part of the gang, who was also out there doing that stuff, and that was like what I decided to do.
So how old were you when you got involved in gangs?
I was probably like 16, 17.
16, 17.
Played sports before that, man. Like,
You were a good boy.
yeah, I was trying to be good, like I was doing sports, but I couldn't get the grades, and you gotta, I had a dad that he wasn't my real father, but he loved me.
Yeah.
And he did all that sports stuff with me. But my thing is like, I don't know, man. Like it was just like you gotta feel the love,
Yeah.
somewhere. And he worked a lot, so I had to feel that love from somewhere. And like I had a cousin who was doing the same thing, so I started hanging out with him a lot. And doing the gang stuff.
At the age of 16?
And then like when I was like 17, I found out I was having a kid, and I stopped. I stopped. I was like, man, I want to be a good dad.
Yeah.
And then I went back again when my first mother of my kid, she basically just took my daughter away and was like, you're not gonna see her, and I couldn't find her, so I went back to the hood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit, because I know like that's automatic when you're doing you know, you're involved in that lifestyle. You're in the streets. You try to do good. Any little thing to set you off is like, okay, forget it then. I'm going back in the hood. I'm going
Yeah.
hard. I'm gonna do whatever. I'm gonna do anything. I'm down for whatever.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, like the whole down for whatever thing, really, that comes from being dropped and let down, and you really just stop giving a crap about everything. Like, all right, no one cares about me. So a lot of people look at gang members or criminals and they say, dang, that dude's crazy.
Yeah.
But really, what it is they don't got nothing to lose.
Nope.
So talk a little bit about that mentality.
Well, when my the mother of my kid, my oldest daughter, she I actually went to the Navy, and I was trying to do good for my oldest daughter. And while I was in the Navy, she had caused a car crash before, and that messed up my back. And I was in the Navy, and I was almost done with boot camp, and like my back was really hurting me, until they sent me home. You know, but when I called and said, "Hey, I'm coming back. I want to see my daughter," she was just like, "Okay, cool. I don't know if you could see your daughter." And I was like, "Why not?" And she was just like, "I just don't want you to." And so I called my dad, and my dad's like, "Oh yeah, me and your mom are getting a divorce." And I had nobody else. You know, I didn't have a home to go to. I didn't have that home to go back to. So I came home, and I was just like, what do I do? I was living with the aunt for a while, trying to do good, kind of like trying to see my oldest daughter as much as possible. But I didn't have a car. I didn't have nothing, you know. I tried to get a job, but I moved with my aunt in Buena Park, and my daughter lived in Pomona. And it was like, just to get there was like a mission, you know. And finally I just said, forget it, you know. Then I found out my mom was using again, you know, because she had been clean for a while. I found out my mom was using again, and she was living in hotels. I'm like, cool, I'm on my way over there. And then at the hotels, I started seeing the old homeboys, and it was just on from there, you know. Like I didn't have a care in the world. I really didn't. Like, it was just like, you know, my daughter, in my mind, because of the women in my life, because, you know, I was raised by my grandma until I was about 8 years old, and she died when I was 8, you know? And then I went back to my mom, who's somebody I hardly knew, but she, you know, I was closer with my dad, though, you know?
Yeah.
The man she married, and he wasn't my real father, but I was like, cool, Dad, you know? I think I knew him like 2 months when I started calling him Dad. And it was like, it went from that. And then my mom doing it again, and now she was doing that to my sisters. She was leaving my sisters, and I just, you know, I was at just a low point where I was like, I don't care, man. Like, I was that guy we get shot at, and I wasn't hitting the floor. I wasn't trying to duck away. I was trying to get hit.
Wow.
You know, I was trying to get hit because, to me, it was like I got nothing worth it out here.
Yeah.
But then I started going to prison, and I was like, cool. Like, at least I got somewhere to go at night. At least I got a bed to lay on. At least I have 3 meals a day, you know, and that was cool for me, you know. But, a lot of stuff was just, you know, it was just a lot of bad time. I was only like 19, and I was trying to survive out there, you know, and I was just like, I'm just going to go to the hood.
Whatever.
Yeah.
So is that how old you were when you went to prison? You were 19?
I was 19 when I went to prison
Do you
for the
feel like
first
you
time.
got institutionalized?
Yeah. Heck yeah.
Talk about that. What is it like to be institutionalized?
Institutionalized, when you get out of prison, like, let's just say the situation that I'm in right now. I'm watching everybody, you know. I'm watching the guy's next move, you know. I'm watching what's this guy looking at, you know. Somebody coming up from behind me, and then not only that, it's just the way you conduct yourself. The way you sit, the way you talk, the way you, everything, that's part of being in prison, you know, like the spreads.
Yeah.
You're still making spreads. I still make spreads to this day.
Manwiches.
Yeah, manwiches, yeah. It's like, cool, you're hungry, son? Cool, I'm going to make you a manwich. My son's like, what? What the heck is that?
This don't look like a manwich. This is some noodles and some bread.
It's a soup sandwich, bro. Like, but, you know, just all that stuff, man. Like, every single aspect.
Some dudes are more comfortable in prison than they are on the outs.
Yeah, I was for sure. And it was like, it wasn't like, it was better for me in there because I didn't have to worry about where I was going to go or hustling if I was going to catch a case because I already caught a case, you know. But then things changed, you know. Like things changed after I met my wife, you know. Things changed.
So in prison, were you getting high in prison? Were you using
Yeah,
heroin?
yeah.
What was it? Talk about the withdrawals. What were the withdrawals like for heroin?
Oh, they're horrible. I always
What would you
withdraw.
rate them like? Because I know you use a lot of drugs. So would you say like on a scale from 1 to 10, what would you say heroin would be?
30.
30. All right.
They're
What?
horrible.
Explain them for somebody that never been through them. Because there's some people that watch that they have family members that are addicted, or they have a husband or a wife that's addicted, and on the outside looking in, it's like, bro, you put yourself in that situation,
Just
get the
stop,
heck
yeah.
out of it, and just stop. But explain the withdrawal symptoms, like to somebody that never knew about them or understood what they were.
Well, I'd say I mean, obviously the worst thing is your bones feel like they're gonna jump out of your body. The throwing up and